a new pastor in the Full Gospel Assembly took place on Sunday, 31st of August at the Full Gospel Jubilee Center. The Indomitable Lions begin camping in Yaoundé ahead of the Eswatini March come Thursday, 4th of September 2025. Natural disaster hit a village in Sudan, causing several casualties and an estimated 1,000 people dead. These and more in this newscast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on this edition of the Primetime Newscast on ABAKWA Television. For presentation, I am Gashi Sharon. Let's kickstart the news on a religious page where the send-off and installation service of Reverend Deep Elias and Reverend Som Victor out of and into the Bamenda 1 District Office of the Full Gospel Mission respectively took place on Sunday, 31st of August at the Full Gospel Jubilee Center. Let's get details from our correspondent.
The send-off service and installation service of Reverend Deep Elias and Reverend Som Victor out of and into the Bamenda 1 District Office of the Full Gospel Mission respectively took place yesterday, Sunday, 3rd of August at the Full Gospel Jubilee Center in Bamenda under the supervision of Reverend Augustine T. The service that was attracted by a cross-section of ministers of the gospel and Christians was embellished with praise and worship, testimonies, song ministration, and a message of prayers, not excluding refreshments. The outgoing pastor, Reverend Deep Elias, was served as the district and pastor of the Fish Point Assembly for over 4 years, was hailed for positive reforms that he brought to the work of God, his church planting zeal, his listening ears, commitments, amongst others. He was encouraged and prayed for to do more in his new place of assignment in Baturi in the East region. Reverend Som Victor, an experienced pastor, was sequentially introduced, installed, and tasked to carry out his ministerial administrative duties with humility and grace.
Moving over to a sad page where unknown gunmen suspected to be separatists stormed the Centerport neighborhood in Quen, Bamenda 3 subdivision, Northwest region, firing gunshots indiscriminately. The attack took place yesterday evening, which resulted to the tragic death of a teenager, the daughter of Mr. Asafo Kingsley. 2 others sustained serious injuries and are currently battling for their lives in the hospital. This is the second bloody attack of its kind in the Centerport in less than a month. On August 12, armed individuals stormed the locality, killing popular businessman Chamukong Harrison Amungwa, who was later laid to rest on August 28. Residents are living in fear, feeling and relying solely on God's mercy. We will bring you more details in our subsequent reports. Moving over to the littoral region, the autonomous port of the Douala is going through one of the most severe congestion crises in its recent history. It is now holds the most congested record of the South African coast. Let's get details from Staff Lady Non Kelly.
The causes of these paralysis are multiple and above all reflect accumulated structural weaknesses. The slitting up of the Wuri River makes docking maneuvers perilous. Torrential rains aggravate logistical constraints, while the seasonal peak of cocoa export and strong demand from neighboring countries further saturate an already aging system. Absolute cranes, administrative delays, and management that could be improved add to the picture, despite recent investment announcements from the autonomous port of Douala. If the deep water port of Kribi appears to be a more fluid alternative, with delays reduced to only 2 days, it does not yet offer a sufficient response. The additional cost and difficulties of evacuation to the hinterland limit its immediate attractiveness. On a regional scale, the comparison is relentless. Infrastructures like Pointe Noire, Tema, or One display much higher performance with waiting times of less than 24 hours. Faced with this observation, the central question remains that of vision and governance. Cameroon adopted an ambitious master plan in 2019 to triple the capacity of the port of Douala by 2050, with a project to extend it to Monoka. But between the promises and the daily reality of shippers, the gap remains glaring. Without a profound reform combining modernization of infrastructure, digitalization of procedures, and better regional logistic coordination, Douala risks remaining a weak link in West African trade, to the detriment of the country's attractiveness and the competitiveness of its sub-region.
And on to political updates. The officials and members of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) in Momo Division have declared their readiness to deliver a resounding victory for President Paul Biya in the October 12, 2025 presidential election. The declaration was made during a stock-taking meeting held in Bamenda on August 29, 2025, chaired by Justice Mba Acharos for Mundam, head of the CPDM Central Committee Permanent Divisional Delegation for Momo, and Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of the Supreme State Audit Office. The 5-section presidents, mayor, and party officials presented updates on voter registration, polling stations, and grassroots mobilization. The meeting also witnessed the official defection of members from other political parties to the CPDM. Justice Mba Acharos for Mundam praised militants for their commitment, urged them to collect their voters' cards, and reaffirmed that the CPDM is positioned not only to win the presidential election, but also all upcoming polls in Momo Division. We will bring you updates in our subsequent reports. Moving over to sports, the indomitable Lions of Cameroon have today settled into camping at the Hilton Hotel in Yaoundé as they intensify preparations for the match scheduled for Thursday, 4th of September against Eswatini, with 20 players now in the squad, including Vincent ABAKWA. Let's get details from our correspondent.
Goalkeeper Andre Onana, Brian Bomo, midfielder Zambo Anguissa, and striker Maxime Choupo-Moting among the latest arrivals. Their presence has strengthened the squad as head coach and staff finalize tactical and physical drills ahead of the game. Captain Vincent ABAKWA has already begun gym sessions with his teammates, setting the tone for the camp. The group will hold their first official training session today at 6 p.m. at the Yaoundé Military Stadium, a key step in fine-tuning preparations. The match against Eswatini is part of Cameroon's ongoing qualifications campaign, and expectations are high for a convincing performance. The addition of high-profile players is seen as a boost to the team's ambitions, with fans eagerly awaiting the outcome. As the countdown continues, all eyes remain on the Lions camp in Yaoundé, where focus and determination are building ahead of Thursday's encounter.
And let's take you over to the foreign page, where a devastating landslide has hit the village of Tarasin in Sudan's Darfur region, killing an estimated people of 1,000 in what is now known as one of the deadliest natural disasters in the country's recent history. Staff lady Fomi Schneider took interest in the story and compiled this for the reports.
The landslide took place on Sunday after days of heavy rain in the Mara Mountains, a remote volcanic range in central Darfur in Sudan. According to the Sudan Liberation Movement Army, only one person survived the disaster. Footages now show a flattened landscape as the search for survivors or bodies continues through the rubble. Meantime, the group is calling for urgent international help, especially given that the tragedy comes as Sudan's brutal civil war continues to rage. According to many, the Mara Mountains, once a refuge for families fleeing conflict, has now become the site of unimaginable loss. It should be noted that over 40,000 people have died since fighting erupted in April 2023, with millions more displaced, and some communities are resorting to other means of survival.
And ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast on ABAKWA Television. The news was produced by King Wills, supervised by the station's director, King Wills, and coordinated by the entire news desk of ABAKWA Television. And for presentation, I am Gashi Sharon. Do stay in the company of more interesting programs coming up on ABAKWA Television. Thanks for watching. Good night.